Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Links for Life. And this is going to be so much fun, this episode. I have as my special guest today, Pete Hiskey, who I have to confess, I think is actually the perfect guest for Links for Life. I say that because, the byline of Links for Life is the intersection of golf, growth, and God. And that intersection kind of describes the complete whole life that Pete has lived, which he'll get to share with you in detail. And so his life is all about his passion for golf, his passion for God, and for growth. And so I think it's going to be a phenomenal episode to hear his story and the lessons that he's learned and the, really incredible life that he's had at this intersection of golf, growth, and God. And I think about it from a couple of different angles. A few episodes ago, I had a really fun episode with Will Saunders. And Will talked about his love for God and how he's connected his love for God with his passion for creating community with people and used golf as a platform. And I think you're going to hear a lot from Pete, a similar story from perhaps a little bit more of a professional level. So Pete and I got to know each other just a few months ago, but I almost feel like we were long lost brothers because we met completely coincidentally in St. Andrews, Scotland. A few days before my trip to Scotland, I was meeting with a good friend and telling him I was getting ready to go over. And he said, well, you need to meet, this guy that I met just recently, Pete Hiskey, out there. And I immediately knew the Hiskey name. And he said he's going to be in Scotland, I think, at the same time. So Pete and I set up a time for breakfast. And then as we set up the time and as we began to kind of just introduce one another, I realized we had like a dozen different really close connections. One of my best friends growing up is one of his best friends, tons of other friends and connections. And all of a sudden we just realized our lives just were like colliding together with different connections and loves and passions. So anyway, it's been fun getting to know you, Pete, a little bit, and I think we both feel like, it's kind of a beginning of a friendship that should have started a few decades ago. So welcome, Pete.
Great. Well, great to be here, and I'm excited to be with you, and I feel exactly the same as you.
Yeah, it was so much fun having that breakfast together, in St. Andrews, Scotland. So Pete's history, I'm going to let him tell you most of it, but it is about as golf-centered as you can get. Multi-generational. Both his dad and uncle were on the PGA Tour. His uncle won multiple times on the PGA Tour. His family has been involved in the PGA Tour Bible study. His dad was the founder of Links Players, a really neat organization. Pete has been in the golf industry his entire life. He'll tell you a lot about that, but it's a fascinating and really cool story. Pete's been married to Carolyn for 41 years. Great. You're catching up with me. Not quite there, but you're catching up with me. He has 5 children and 11 grandchildren and just continues kind of an all-in love for the game of golf and involvement and desire to spread the love of the game of golf. And also, so much intersected with his love and passion and growth in his spiritual life. So with that, I'm going to kind of step out of it. And Pete, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about your story. Go as far back as you want. Love to hear it.
Well, thanks, Tommy. With that introduction, I hope our listeners are not too let down. And, like life is an adventure, and I share from a good sweet spot in life right now. At age 64, I was just sitting there this morning, just thanking God for all that He's done in my life. Just feel like I'm in a real sweet spot of life, and I hope that comes across today as I reflect back a little on my life, where I've been, and the family I was raised in. I feel very fortunate. I use the word blessed. It seems like it's overused these days, but I feel blessed.
Yeah.
And I grew up really with the only language I understood as a kid was the golf language. I knew enough English to get by, but I'm fluent in the language of golf. And I think my father put a little plastic club in my hands when I was like 2 years old. And by the time I was 11, I was playing my first tournament. And that streak's running to about 53 years this year. I still love competing in golf. I love the game. I love playing the game. I love the challenge of it. It's just, love the relational context. Played with 3 guys yesterday, and it was so sweet. I could hardly remember what I shot. It was just such a beautiful time. I hope that every person listening to this loves the game like I do. It's just fun. I feel a little bit like a golf evangelist. I want people to play golf, but
that's a good sign of a round of golf. That's a good good sign of a round of golf when you're not sure you can remember your score.
Yeah. I do remember it, but what I remember is the guys I walked with yesterday.
Yeah.
But to answer your question a little bit more, I grew up in a golf family. My sister played at Duke University, my brother at University of Maryland. I was fortunate enough to play at James Madison University in golf. We all were trained, as with my father being a golf pro, how to score, not just swing the club, but how to score. And it's been a great gift all my life, knowing how to play this game and play it well. And, I think back on all my early employment. I went from, hawking golf balls and selling them in my dad's golf shop to learning how to cut greens and mowers, and worked on the maintenance crew, worked at a driving range for a lot of years. My first real job, started working with Ping Golf Company as a sales rep locally here in Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey. Very strong faith family. The Solheim family is that owns Ping. Continued relationship with even to this day, as I help them in a lot of different ways. But I was with them for 24 years as a sales rep. And I was fortunate with Mr. Solheim, who, if you've seen ever pictures of the founder, he's the one with the little beard here on his little goatee, the white goatee that, would be an interesting story for another time. But he, shook hands with my father, with myself, and said, I want you to represent me. But more than anything, I want you to love the golf pros and the people you serve, in the name of Jesus, and put their interests above your own. And if they buy something, great. That was his handshake to me. And I worked for him for 19 years, and then I worked for the last 5 years for his son, John A. Solheim. Now I work for John Jr.'s, as like in an ambassador role. So the Ping Company's meant a lot to me. When I transitioned out of sales, sales was a challenging, in my kind of personality and drive was a challenge for me. It was a good job to have when you have little kids, but at a certain point, which I'm sure you probably discussed on this show, you come to a place where you want to shift from success in your life to significance.
Yeah.
And I hit that when I was about 43, right in the perfect midlife crisis. It would just seem like a natural transition for me to work more with my father. Had a group of friends who said we'd like to we want you to care for the golfers of the world, like all the time, full time. And so I resigned from the golf company and started using more of my pastoral gifts, and shepherding and things like this to care for the golf world. And so the last 22 years, I've been working quite a bit out on the PGA Tour. I've been helping some of our groups that meet in countries around the world. Been helping a lot of the local ministry works in golf, links players, the Tour Chapel, just a variety of different things. And then I'm sure as we'll discuss a little more the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of work in St. Andrews. And I can explain a little bit more of that depending on how much time we end up with. So that's a little bit of my story.
Yeah. That's great. I think a lot of people that are listening to this might be familiar with some of those groups that you talked about, and I know we're going to talk about this newer venture that you're working with in Scotland. So we'll save that for just a minute. But I'd love for you just to describe briefly links players and the PGA Tour Chapel and kind of what those are and kind of your involvement with that. Okay.
Yeah, links players, we started about 20 years ago. And the primary idea behind that would be for men and women who wanted to have a little bit of a group at their club and include people who normally wouldn't go to church on Sunday, who maybe on Sunday would be playing golf in the morning. That would be where they'd be worshiping. And they would have create a forum like on a morning or the week where they could gather together, invite their friends who were members at their club. And it would just be a group type atmosphere where they'd be able to share life, share some scriptures, just intersect golf and life together at their local club. And so we started that out in about, it might be 25 years now already. It's hard to believe. And currently, there's over 300 groups like this around the country. And we have, I believe, eight full-time staff people now. And a lot of those are men who are retired and are looking for, like, what can I do with the last quarter of my life? How can I kind of redeem my recreational time, like, and not, connect my friends into golf. So that's one of the avenues, the Links Players Group.
That's really great. I think there are, hopefully a lot like the audience that I think is interested in this podcast. There are a lot of people who love the game of golf who are also interested in taking that love and making it into something a little bit more, a deeper connection, a little bit more purpose, sense of community. Certainly, I think a lot of retired people are in that category, but I think even people, prior to that are trying to figure that out. So Links Players, and is it linksplayers.com?
Yeah, linksplayers.com. You could get that at, and then that's actually the Links Ministries. And then Links Players is is a daily devotional we put out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so if you go to linksplayers.com, you'll actually be able to sign up. And there's, we have a bunch of different people who write. We should get you, Tommy, writing for this also, man. Like you'd be great to be able to share on this.
I'd love
so
to.
those are two different, a little bit different avenues, but they're connected.
Yeah.
Right?
That's great. Gosh, so meaningful. And I think of what my friend Will Saunders is doing, which he's runs an organization here in Richmond called Unclubbed, which is a community, and he's got a mailing list of 1,200 people and sets up 26 tournaments for people to just connect for 9 holes. So I think, he'd love to hear all about this and connect in. So
yeah,
pretty
there's
cool.
so many things. One thing we realized years ago was the command that Jesus gave us to pray for. There's a large harvest being reaped. This is Luke 10 chapter verse 2, and to pray for the Lord to like release laborers into the harvest. And I really believe since that time, I hear about all these different groups and people that are working at their either local golf club, their driving range, their country. Guys like you just brought in. I mean, there's another big group of like they call themselves the Mulligans. And for Second Chance Life, we have a group here in our town. We started about 10 years ago. Just as a way, we have breakfast 12 times a year, and we have 6 to 7, like just local, like golf events that are no pressure, that are a place you could bring a friend to introduce them to, like, what is the Mulligan group? And, but we love that term, a second chance. And there's a lot of Mulligan groups around our country and around the world too, which is, there's so many things happening. Sometimes it's hard to even, be able to share what they all are.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. So, and your family is also involved with the PGA Chapel?
Yeah. So that goes back to 1965. My father, my Uncle Babe, Kermit Zarley, a guy named Joel Goldstrand, they were playing golf on the PGA Tour, and they realized on Sunday they didn't, they were working. Hopefully working.
Yeah, exactly.
And so my father laughs. He goes, we weren't trying to start anything, that we thought would go on for the past 60 years, but inevitably that's what happened. They started meeting on Tuesday nights or Wednesday nights, as just to survive, like we just need we need to connect. And they would, open the scriptures, just have a little time of sharing. And that was kind of it. It basically has been run by the players themselves for the last 60 years. It's unique in that sense of like, it's a player run group, and the players can invite who they want, but it's primarily for the players. So in the last, 10 years or so, well, actually it goes back further, that Larry Moody and Dave Kruger, they asked them to come out and do some teaching starting about 30 years ago. And those men were just really invested in couples, media, caddies, along the way. And then the last 10 years, Brad Payne and Stephen Bunn, who were with our College Golf Fellowship Ministry, which is a whole nother big group, that we started in 1980, have primarily shepherded the PGA Tour Bible study. So I've kind of come along with them and just help them in any way I can. I primarily mentor a few players, caddies, one guy that's in the media, but they do the teaching every week on Tuesday, the two of them. Sometimes they bring me in. I think I'm like the right hander in the bullpen. Occasionally they'll bring you in and fill in for something, but they're out there every week. I'm out there, 15 times a year.
Right.
So that's a little bit of the history of the group there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really neat. I was, reading in my time this, morning out of Proverbs 19, and there's a verse in there that PGA Chapel reminds me of. It says, man makes his plans, but it's the Lord's purposes that prevail. Yeah. And I think of, your dad just deciding to survive. Let's get this little group together. No intentions, no 60-year business plan type of scenario. Just let's get this little group together. Man makes his plans, and that God had this purpose that has now spanned many decades that came out of that. And, often, as much as we plan, it's those things that bring the best out of life. So that's really cool and amazing, and, quite a unintended legacy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's been great. And now you look back on the different, men, women, caddies. I mean, I have to mention the caddies. Caddies are very influential. You look at Michael Greller, you look at Ted Scott. I mean, Greg Bodine, who's caddying for Bryson now. Like all these different friends that are, and they're asked to speak now at different things. They have their own platform, like to share. Teddy Scott's unbelievable. He has like a Sunday sermon. If you haven't ever heard, you got to look it up on Twitter. It's like awesome.
I know. I have heard it. It is amazing. One of these episodes, I want to get a high level caddy on, because I think that's, that position in a golfer's life. I've even seen something as such a representation of God and the Holy Spirit in our life, and the way you have someone whispering and encouraging and leading and guiding and comforting and,
right.
All of those roles. And I think it is such a powerful role and an example for the places we can play in one another's life. So I would love to at some point get like a really great caddy on to talk about that.
Sure.
Because I know what a impact that can have on, a golfer's role. So anyway, I think that's really cool, and that PGA Chapel has extended to them, and then, eventually extended to the college golf world, the up and coming. So all of it is very amazing. And I think about what you said earlier about that transition, that midlife transition from golf sales, and your involvement and caring for some of the professionals that, you were selling to this broader call to care for all golfers. And I think that's what you said, something like that. So I'd love for you to just share. Do you have, a personal sense of, what your mission or purpose is in life? Have you defined that in any sense, or is it just broad?
Yeah, it's, most times people ask, what do you do, Pete? I said that normal question, and, I like to be able to work with a definition. So I basically describe myself as a personal and motivational coach for golf and life. And my people group are the golfers. That's who I understand their language. And it works out itself in a lot of different ways. I guess, I feel like that is who I am. I know that's fundamentally how I'm personally gifted. But through the years, like I mentioned, I cut golf greens, I sold golf equipment for a long time. I was a pastor at church for a little while, and I've done a lot of mentoring. It's worked itself out in different roles. Like vocationally, I would say I wear some different hats. But fundamentally, I'm a lover of Jesus. I want to love God with all my heart, mind, soul, and strength. I want to love others like I love myself correctly. And then my people group, the mission statement I often use, that I think we all use. I mean, really, the great adventure of partnering with God in this world is like to go and make disciples of all people, of all nations. It says all nations, teaching them to observe all that I've commanded you to do, and I'm with you. And that word, it's interesting, and this may be a little bit of preaching, so hang on, crew. That word nations, in Greek is the word ethnos. And that word has more to do with like a tribal group than it does like a geographic nation. I think most of us that are Americans tend to think of that word in a geographic sense. Like I'm a missionary sent to Kenya, or we're going to travel and do and reach the people group of the Guatemalans or whatever it is. But our tribe, if you want to know your tribe, we have 105 million golfers in the world. That's according to the RNA and the USGA. That's by the way, that's almost a 50% increase in 5 years. There was 70 million golfers by definition before COVID. So in the last 6 years, we've grown by 50% and only 4% golf courses. So that's why if you're feeling the pinch financially, it's a supply demand if you understand economics.
Yeah.
But that's our people group, okay? And we're represented in 205 countries. There's 205 countries that have at least a 9-hole golf course. And so the mission statement that I go off is that I want to be a discipler of my nation. I shared at the very beginning, Tommy, this is the language I understand. Like I don't understand a lot of other languages. But this is a group that I can care for. And so, I want to help and foster anybody who's discipling that people group. That's why I love what Stephen and Brad are doing on the PGA Tour. I love, we need to be discipling our leaders, our golfing leaders, Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns, Russell Henley. These guys need support and they need training. But just as equally, we need to connect with people when they're in their formative years, like in college. That's why we have a very strong ministry to College Golf Fellowship. The CGF group is amazing. I believe we have close to 20 full-time workers in college, and we're expanding that out into the college golf around the world now.
Wow.
And so we're strategically thinking, and I feel like I want to get under and help support all these different groups, these men, these women, these people working with the junior golf camps. There's a Fellowship of Christian Athletes does an amazing job with their camps. And they connect golf and Jesus together, and we want to support that. So I'm trying to get under all these.
That is so cool.
At the same time, yeah.
I love that. You've got a nation of 105 million people that God's called you to. And, talking about that verse, the Great Commission, go therefore and make disciples of all nations. You've probably heard this, but the first word in that is go. And in the Greek language, it's actually a participle. So the more proper translation is as you are going.
Amen. That's right.
As you are going. And I think particularly of you, because it's wherever I am, whether it's, happening to play a round of golf with 3, good friends, or the College Golf Fellowship, or in Scotland, which we'll hear about, it says, as I am going, wherever I am going, make disciples of my nation, which is this golf nation. And I just think that's, incredible. And it's got such clarity, and it's clearly directed everything that you've done in your life.
That's absolutely correct. And I love the clarification you made there, because that's the second, that part of that verse, it reminds me that today, wherever I go, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. Wherever you walk, if you can ever create an image in your mind that says, if you look at your feet, these feet are bringing good news wherever you go. That to me, when I'm walking on the golf course, if I look down, I just kind of beat that into my brain. So I remind myself, hey, where you go, Pete, the good news is going, right? And if we can, I believe we're getting a hold of this in our as we connect with the golfers of the world. This is a great image. As you go, wherever you go, whether you're, at your local country club in Richmond, whether I'm playing up here in Annapolis, Maryland, wherever I am, we are messengers. We reflect Jesus wherever we are, and the golf course and the golf people need that, right?
Absolutely. And I think it so relates to what this podcast is about, because everybody that is listening to this has their nation. They have their place. They have their platform that they spend and are gifted to and do their work and maybe as a hobby or otherwise, they also have a golf platform of sorts. And so how powerful it is to hear the variety of examples, whether it's Will Saunders with Unclubbed or you with College Golf Fellowship, of bringing who we are in our heart and giftedness and in our faith to all of the places as we are going in life. And I think, I mean, you've had as you say, a very blessed way of living that out. But so many that are listening also are in that place in their various places of life or nations of life. So I think it's a really exciting, as you say, it's an adventure to live out that mission in our places of life, which is, I just think is incredibly
It's the most
cool.
exciting adventure. The most exciting adventure. If you're not doing this, you're not taking, sometimes it feels like a little bit of a risk, to like share your life with somebody but people are like, they're so hungry for something. I mean, if you're just available, I mean, God is constantly moving around us. If we can just get in touch with his Holy Spirit, just ask him, friends, like, Holy Spirit, where are you working right now, right around me? How can I get in touch? And then be prepared, get ready.
Well, and I'm just going to throw in a random other thought that, just struck me. You just described you're in such a great place at age 64, and got you by a few years at 67. I see so many men and women that are reaching a second season of life who have this mistaken internal sense that life is on the decline, that purpose and meaning and joy and adventure are behind them. And what I hear you describing and what I equally feel is that this can be the best season of life. This can be the season where we live most abundantly in who God has created us to be. And so, but we may need to open ourselves to that. We may need to look for the places that God has created in a second season. And you are continuing to do that. And I have such a strong compulsion to try to encourage men, but men and women, that we can keep on living more and more of a life of adventure, regardless of our age, regardless of whether our careers are behind us, that we can live, that life of adventure, whether it's 60s, 70s, even 80s, 90s, whatever, we can continue as long as we're still breathing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'm in the prime of life,
Isn't that great?
In the sense of like, not that I know it all or anything, but I do feel like I have more wisdom than I did 30 years ago. My father always said, one of the things you can really, like when you invest in young people, you have them learn from your mistakes. Okay. Like I think we all look back, oh man, I made some mistakes, but I've learned from those mistakes. And I've through life kind of it's kind of made it a quest, the guy that, little shout out to Stuart Raleigh, who's, kind of been our mutual friend for a long time, but has really encouraged me in my life to like, you need to understand the way God made you. Like, this is a quest, like, what are your strengths? What are, you introvert, extrovert, like I think I finally have a really good idea of who I am. I'm secure in him. I know who my Heavenly Father says I am. So I have some things I can impart to my next generation, right? Sometimes it's a little daunting, because you start asking God, who do you want me to mentor? Who do you want me to spend time with? I honestly think most men that I meet that are my stage of life, they don't ask God that. I just can't connect with the next generation. But they've never really said, like, bring me a disciple, bring me a mentee. Who would you have, Mike? Because he wants us, like, to impart. He wants us to, like, invest in this next generation. And we have a lot to share with them, right? I mean, we look at the millennials, we look at these groups, and we say, man, these guys are lost. Like, look, they don't save money. They make decisions that are, for today. These kind of broad strokes. But when we enter into relationship with them, just play around a golf with a 28-year-old sometime, and like, they are confused, man. Like, they do, they're making decisions, they would love to have time with me or you or people in our group that have learned and said, would you like to learn from some of the things that I've learned about? And I have had zero to say no to me. Zero.
And the key is we mentor out of our inadequacy, and we mentor out of our mistakes, and the lessons learned from those mistakes. So I think, so many people are reticent to enter into that world because they feel inadequate. And that's in a sense the best place to mentor from.
Yeah, it really is. It's not that I would be the last person to say, I got my life together. I mean, I feel like I'm in a sweet spot, but I do not know it all. Okay. Yeah. I know you agree with me. We don't know it all, but what I would have given when I was 25 to have a 65-year-old guy I could just hang out with and say, hey, what do you think about this? Like,
I couldn't agree more.
So I just put myself back in those shoes and say, when I'm with somebody on the golf course, I go, hey, would you like to have a conversation about this? And like I said, I think I'm batting 100%. Like, I just have never had anybody say, I don't want to learn anything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to learn from your mistakes. I've got it together,
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
So just enter that. Like, I just want to encourage our listeners, like, consider entering into that, like, that adventure. Like, I think you'll be blown away.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, so speaking of adventures, you got a new one, going on now that I think is, really exciting and fascinating. So I'd love for you to tell about your newest venture.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd love to share about it. So cut me off if I just start going, Tom, because I'm so excited about this. Of course, after my first visit to St. Andrews, if anybody's been there, like, I'm talking about, if you haven't been there, you got to go. This is really, unarguably, it's the place for golf began. If you really want to understand the game, like, what it's really like, you have to go to St. Andrews. You have to go to Scotland. And so many years ago, I thought I was hoping back in the 80s, okay, this will say how far back this goes, that God called me to Scotland. Like, I actually wanted to be a missionary to Scotland. And that didn't happen. And, but in the back of my heart, I've always loved it there, because, like, St. Andrews, strategically, okay, if our mission is to disciple our people group, strategically, St. Andrews is the home of golf. This is where, the rules of golf are written and managed and policed in some ways. This is where it all began. This is where people, go on their lifetime pilgrimage, to hit a shot off the first tee of golf, and to walk across the Swilcan Bridge with their father or their uncle or their son. They just love this, or their wife or their spouse. Like, they travel there. So between 80 and 85 countries come to St. Andrews every summer. And so it occurred to me, 4 or 5 years ago, that if we're going to care for this people group, like, strategically, we need to have a presence there. In the same way that if you want to have an influence for God in the political world, you'd have an embassy or a base in Washington, D.C., because it's the center of the political world. The center of the golf world, sorry, Americans, is not America. Okay. It is St. Andrews, Scotland. And we felt like we should explore, the possibility of having, like, an embassy there or a base, for 3 reasons. And these were the needs we felt like are the most. One would be a place to train like our future chaplains and ministers and businessmen and friends in different countries who come there. Secondly, we'd have a place of hospitality. We want to create an environment where, when somebody brings their foursome or their group of guys, like we help make that story come to life from a spiritual standpoint, like understanding like who Andrew is. I mean, this is one of the craziest things. It's St. Andrews, like the people that live there, that visit, they don't even know who Andrew is. Okay. Like it's this saint. I go, what saint? They don't know. This Andrew is, if you don't know and you're listening to this, Andrew was Jesus' first disciple. He was a disciple of John the Baptist. He was the first one that came to Jesus. That's what that town is named after. That's who. And his bones were, brought there in the 300s. So that's the town you come to, right? I mean, there's a lot of history here, St. Andrews. Why is the old course closed on Sundays? Like, that's a really interesting conversation, spiritually. There's a lot of things like that. So we want hospitality. And the third is we want people to feel like they walk in this property. It's like a refuge. It's a presence of the Holy Spirit. And so we've been exploring it the last 5 years. We're getting very close. All the infrastructure set up, the organization, the charity. We're raising funds for this property. And I truly believe in the next 12 to 24 months, we'll have like a permanent property, and it's called the Saltire. And if you're wondering what that name means, if you look at the flag of Scotland, it's an X like this, and that is traditionally the cross that St. Andrew died on, and it's called the Saltire. It's so that's another conversation piece. We want to create conversations, right? That's what we're often say in our ministry as golf world. We want to change the conversation. And so when people say, what's that about? We bring out a flag, and I can explain to them, that's your flag of Scotland. That's called the Saltire. So that gives you a brief little thing. We do have a website if you want to check it out, thesaltirehouse.org. It's SALTIRE, thesaltirehouse.org. Feel free you'll see some nice endorsement letters from Jack Nicholas, from Gary Player. So it's coming. I believe it's going to happen.
And if nothing else, jump on the site and get on the mailing list to just, stay up to date with how that project is. And I've talked with you about it, and it really is amazing. And you just came back.
Come visit us.
Yeah. You just came back from, 2 months in Scotland?
Yes, we did,
and that's when I got to see you there and got to meet with you and a group of people to talk about this and even just begin to experience the pre-location kind of type of ministry and work that you're doing there. And I think it's, really very, very exciting. So,
Thanks.
That's so neat. And, it just feeds into all that we've talked about of, as you are going these many different places that God takes us, and seasons of life that God takes us in living out who he has created us to be. And your story, is one in the golf world, amongst the golf nation, but we all have those stories of the different ways that God works and leads and directs and points us to live the life that we're meant to live with him. And so I love this both from, just what a cool life you've had in the golf world, but just what a cool life you've had, living for God in the golf world. And that's, that's the best for all of us to experience. And I'm sure we could talk about the hard places that has taken you as I've had hard places. So it doesn't, make us immune from difficult things, but it is just a good, abundant life God has for us.
Yeah, that's right. And like, I want to be the first to say, like, I don't have it all together. I've had, my life graph looks much more like a roller coaster than it does look like an ascension.
Yeah.
But he's been there for me the whole time. He's given me great sport that I could go back to. I'm very, very grateful for that. But I always want to make it clear. It's not like you're looking at somebody on the screen that's got it all together. It's just, I have a stronger sense of calling maybe towards this people group, but it's been an incremental step along the way, right? It's not, didn't wake up one day and discover this. This is where you're finding me in my life today.
Yeah. I really appreciate that. Well, I'm introducing today a new part of the Links for Life podcast that I plan on implementing from here going forward, that I'd love to ask my guests, regardless of, what their proficiency is in the game of golf. What is one golf tip that you would offer to those who are listening? It could be mental, it can be, mechanical, whatever. If you throw one out, what's something that you would offer as a golf tip for our listeners?
Yeah. So I consider myself a golf coach. So
yeah,
I'll throw one coaching thing and then one swing tip in. So the coaching, is like understanding like proper self-belief in yourself, like who you really are as a golfer. You understand, your strengths, like learning to play to your strengths on the golf course and learning to practice your weaknesses on the golf course. So you don't try to hit a shot, with a 20-yard cut around a tree with a lake on the left, because you can do it once in 100. Like, right. That's the shot you pitch out. Like you learn to manage what you've been given. And then when you practice, like, take the areas of growth, maybe where you're weakest, and be honest about it. I mean, most people are not, like I practice my 600s because it's my favorite club, Yeah. But that club probably doesn't need much help. But your wedges might, right? Then I think from a swing tip, I just learned this last week. I mean, this tells you I've been playing competitive golf all these years. And, one of the best teachers I get to watch on the PGA Tour, and it's a real privilege to watch the best teachers teach the best players, right? But Mark Blackburn is an amazing teacher. And, one of the things he says that the PGA Tour pros do different than amateurs. So this is where you want to listen, okay? Because most of us do not do this. And these are shots from the rough. He says most golfers walk into a shot in the rough and they don't do anything different. Okay. And then they wonder why the shot doesn't come out right. But if you can think about basically three things, okay, when you set up to a shot in the rough. Okay. One is to choke down just a tad on the club. Secondly, to stand a tad closer to the ball. And the third is to put your weight on your forward side, your left side. Just move your weight over there and then hit it. And I've been trying this the last week, and my shots are coming in the rough so much better, like better than like last 20 years. For some reason, I get in the rough. I mean, I've been pretty low handicap my whole life, and they just come out of the rough all over the place, thin, fat, whatever. So that's just one swing. It's like most things in golf, the biggest swing change you can make is just in your setup.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're set up the right way, golf is so easy.
I needed that tip yesterday in my round of golf, because I got into the rough and I didn't really adjust my setup and, chunked the ball. So, that's great. I love that. I'll definitely take that.
There's a couple things. Maybe they help you.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Pete, this is, I knew it would be. This has been a joy to have the conversation.
Thanks.
And, just so much to chew on
Yeah.
out of all of this. And I just appreciate everything you've done. And it's just really fun for me to connect with you personally and in the game of golf. So thank you for being a guest on Links for Life.
Thanks for having me. It's been great. And yeah, thanks for letting me share a little bit. And I know I can't close anything without just saying I'm so thankful to God for connecting me out of darkness into light when I was 19. And anything I've done, anything that I've shared is because of him. It's because it's all about him, for him, and through him. I have to say that because it's true.
Yeah. Perfect close. Well, thanks everybody for listening. This has been a really special episode of Links for Life. And I would appreciate it so much if you would share this episode. We're early in this journey of Links for Life, a little bit like you, Pete, with Saltire House, but having so much fun with it. And I do want to share and grow it. So if you would share this episode with your other golfing friends or people who would just enjoy this, phenomenal story we've heard. So thanks everybody for joining. We'll be back next week.